Hello and welcome to Office Hours. Hopefully you can hear me. My name is John Dickinson. This is a dry run of Office Hours, and it's the first time that I have actually undertaken the host role for Office Hours. So I'm not going to sit here and talk at you for about 5 minutes. We're going to get straight into it. Today we're working in Sapphire Builder, and the whole idea of today is to sit with me as I experiment inside of Sapphire Builder, and hopefully you'll learn something about how I use Builder and how you can use Sapphire Builder when you're working with Sapphire. So let's jump straight in. Just going to share my screen. And what I've got here, I'm in After Effects, and we're going to be focusing on Sapphire Builder. So it doesn't matter if you're not using After Effects, as long as you are using a host that supports, Sapphire Effect Builder. So if you're in the audience, please just sing out and tell me you can hear me, because I think you can, but I'm just not exactly sure. And also, obviously, if you have a question, just type it in the chat. If we have a bunch of questions, I can answer those, and I might not be able to present everything that I've got planned, but that's fine. So we're focusing on you here. If you have a question, that's my priority. Okay, so let's jump into this particular shot here. What I want to do first is show you how you can enhance a shot using Sapphire, and obviously specifically Sapphire Builder. So of course we could throw any number of Sapphire effects at this shot to make it look more interesting. Fantastic. Thanks, Stephen. Welcome, Stephen. But I like to work in Sapphire Builder because it gives me more flexibility, because I can have access to all of the Sapphire effects in one place, and I can browse all of the presets in one place, and I can combine presets and effects. Fantastic. Hi, Savan. All right, so I'm just going to select this layer, and in the Effects and Presets panel, I'm going to type in S Effect and double click. So I was playing around with this a little bit earlier, and I started to go in a direction that I really liked. So I took it to a certain stage, and then I stopped because I didn't want to sort of, overdo it too early. I wanted to have it at a certain point, but then be a little more exploratory live rather than have everything pre-done. So let's get it to the stage where I got to, and then we'll take it further. So for this one, I'm not going to load a preset. I'm actually going to just click Edit Effect to open up the Sapphire Builder. Okay, so first things first, what I'll do is I'll just fit this, and so we can see it in full res. Give myself a little bit of space, and let's take a look. So we're going to enhance this shot, and what I want to do first of all is something that if you're using Effect Builder you might not have done up till now, which is use transitions. Because you can actually access the transitions inside of Effect Builder. Of course, there's S transition as well, so there's Transition Builder, but that's a different effect. What I'm going to do is I'm going to use a transition as an effect inside Sapphire Effect. So I could scroll down and take a look at the effects down here. There's a whole list of transitions here, or I could search, just type in wipe, because I specifically wanted to choose a wipe for this. And I'm going to choose wipe checker. I think that's the one I used. So I'm going to drop that in, and just take a look at the wipe percent. I do really love that. That's a really nice transition. And of course, once again, I'm not using it as a transition, but I'm actually going to just disconnect that, just push it to the side. We'll have a look at that one potentially in a minute. The one that I actually did use was Dissolve Tiles. Just looked at my node tree image on my other monitor. So I want Dissolve Tiles. This one here. Just going to drop that onto source. Okay. and just increase the dissolve percentage. Okay, so now we get that sort of tile look. I like that sort of fractured look. That's really nice. Obviously, you can't see the talent anymore, so that's a problem. We're going to fix that, okay? All right, so how do we put the talent back on top? Let's take a look. Just going to move that out of the way. And what I'll do first of all is I will, at the moment the source is plugged into the foreground for dissolved tiles. So I'm actually going to plug that into the background as well. And watch what happens up here. You'll see these black, because the background currently is black. But if I plug the source into the background, now we can see the source as the foreground and the background. Okay? So that's good, but we still need to add the source back over the top. So what I'll do now is I'll grab the crop effect. Now the crop effect is one of the tools. And let me just come down to the bottom here. You can see all of the tools sit down the bottom, and there's crop there. So I'm going to drop crop in, but I'm not going to drop it into the node tree. I'm just going to drop it in separately here, and I'm going to link the source up to that. Now at the moment we can't see what crop is doing, so I'm going to come down to preview selected node and just check that. All right, so now we can see what the crop effect will do to the effect when we change the settings. So with that selected, I'm just going to adjust the width. Just crop that in like that, just around the talent. If I click on dissolve tiles, then we'll see, the result of the dissolve tiles effect. So there's crop, there's dissolve tiles. So now we need to comp them on top of each other. There's a few ways we can do this. One way is to use Sapphire Layer, and we might look at Sapphire Layer in a moment, but there's also another effect which doesn't really get much attention, and that's also one of the tools. That's the Sapphire Composite effect. So I'm going to drop that in, and Composite has a front port and a back port. Okay, so it's a really simple effect. So what we'll do is we'll plug Composite into Result. At the moment we won't see anything, and we'll plug Dissolve Tiles into Back. So this is going to be the back of the composite, the dissolved tiles, this one up here. And crop will be the front. Now if I click on composite, there we go. So now we've comped the crop version on top of the dissolved tiles version, and we're already getting quite an interesting look to that shot, aren't we? We can see the checker box. If I come up to the view menu, I can, well, it's called checkerboard here. I can just turn that off. So we'll leave that off for a moment. And what I'm going to quickly do is I'm going to click OK, come back to After Effects. There we are in After Effects. This is quite a long shot as well. I've scaled this down into an HD, but this is actually a 4K shot. I could have pre-composed, but I wanted to have that little bit of flexibility on the sides. I'm just going to quickly save this and just go back and edit effect. How many of you in the audience are actually using Sapphire at the moment? Okay, so let's just review what we've got. We've got the source, we've got the dissolved tiles transition, and we've got that plugged into the foreground and the background. And we've got the source also plugged into the crop effect. And we've got both of those. We've got the crop effect plugged into the front of composite, and we've got dissolved tiles plugged into the back. Looking nice. Now, you're already starting to see the power of Sapphire Builder. See how we can use the source in 3 different ways and not have to duplicate anything. That's the beauty of node-based compositing. But the real power comes in this when we start to explore different effects and plug those effects in and try out different looks. So we've got the source going into the background, this one here, and we've got the source going into the foreground. Why don't we put some effects in here, some in here and some in here. What I might do is grab halftone, one of my favorite stylize effects, and I'm not going to double click to add it. I'm just going to drop it in to there. Okay, now because I have preview selected node selected, you can see how we get a preview of the entire shot affected by that. So I'm just going to very quickly just increase the dot frequency like that, and turn off preview selected node. Aha, so now we've got the source, and the source is being affected by the halftone, and that's being plugged into the background for the dissolve tiles effect. And we're getting this treatment on here, which is really nice. So I got to this stage yesterday when I was just, practicing a little bit in Builder, and I thought, yeah, I'm onto something here. And that's as far as I went. So let's, my voice is breaking, but let's explore it a little further. It's funny, as I get older, my voice starts breaking more and more. My son has a field day with me. Never misses it. Okay, why don't we try treating the foreground source? Let's try something. What we can do is we could grab an effect. We could, and this is the great thing about Sapphire Builder, is that inside the Builder, you've got over what, 250, 300 effects in here. Inside the Builder, it's really easy to experiment. And we're all guilty, maybe not me, or maybe Ben or Brian, of not using enough of the Sapphire effects. But if you spend a lot of time in Sapphire Builder, you really start to understand what the effects can do, because it's really easy to experiment with them. So I could go in and grab any number of effects and just drop them in here and see what I get. It's really experiment friendly, I guess you could say. But what I want to do, I actually want to grab one of the presets and patch that into this. So what we can do is go up to the File menu, and we could go Insert. Actually, I haven't tried Insert Node from Preset. We could Insert S Effect. I'm going to choose Insert S Effect. That's going to open up the preset browser. And there's thousands of presets in here. And we're working at different ways to actually make the preset browser even more useful. So hopefully we'll have something to show you in future versions. But for now, what I'm going to do is actually just going to click on Favorites. And I've already found a couple that I want to work with. This one, Glassy Purple, we'll look at in a minute. But I want this one here, Golden Edges. So this is one of the presets I created, I think was for version 2022. And I'm just going to click Load. Now hopefully this won't replace everything I already have. No, it won't. See, by choosing Insert S Effect, it literally just inserts the nodes that make up that effect, but it drops them in here in the workspace, but doesn't patch them in. Okay? That's great, Stephen. Good to hear. So what I want to do is I want to take these three effects and I want to put them in here. So I might just give myself some space. I'm going to drag these down like this. I'm going to get rid of the background and the mask. We're not using those at the moment. And let's put these over here like this. And we'll just patch that one into there. And that one into there. Aha. See what we did? So now we're getting that really nice preset look. And we're getting a combo of halftone and that preset look, which is really nice. So you can work from scratch. You can use effects, just drop them in and experiment, which is a great way to work. Or you can grab a preset. You don't have to use the preset exactly as it was intended. You can use it as part of another look. And this is why I've got like, 900 presets in Sapphire now, because every time we do a release, I find them, it's a really exciting part of the release is creating new presets, especially when we have new effects. Because there's always something you can do in Builder, and when you get a new effect, it just makes Builder even more useful. So that's actually looking pretty good. And what can we do to it now? Let's see. Well, obviously, we could go in and, adjust the effects we already have. Things like, dissolve %. That's pretty nice. So if I go back to dissolve 0, we're only seeing the background, or the foreground, sorry. And if I increase dissolve %, which can be keyframed, of course, then we'll see the background, which is nice. Now, looking at this as a graphic designer, I would like to sort of see the edges of this shot broken up a little bit, because it's obviously, you know, with this treatment in the foreground and the background, these edges look a little sharp. It'd be nice if these were a little broken up. So I haven't practiced this, but let's explore how we might be able to break up those edges. And obviously the idea comes first, you know, the look that you want to create, and then you use the tools to create that look. Just going to check the chat here. Early morning, yeah, welcome from the States. We're still playing around with timings for these things. I mean, I'm in Sydney and it's 4 p.m, but you know, 4 p.m. might not be ideal. It might be better for me to do it like 9 a.m. so we've got more people from the US, but we can still get people down under as well. It's okay. This is recorded anyway, so you'll be able to watch it later. Okay, so let's think of a way that we can break these edges up. I might just quickly click OK and save this again. I don't want to have to rebuild this. Just save that. And edit effect. Let's see. So obviously that foreground shot is this one, this crop one. So we need to add something in here to break this up. The thing is, if we use something like, let's see, let's go down to distort. If we use something like parallax strips, for example, and drop it in here, that will break that up. It's not doing exactly what I had expected. Let me just go to manual and yeah. That's not going to be ideal. I could load a preset. When you actually apply an effect, you can apply one of the presets for that particular effect just by clicking on Load Preset. Let's have a look and see what we've got in here. Fast and shifty. Added a few new ones to the parallax strips in 2022.5 version, which was the most recent version. Things like this. Thin diagonal. I like these kind of looks, these diagonal fractured looks. You know, an ultra thin diagonal. Let's, I like that one too, the vertical thins, which are really nice. Let's click load for that one. See, that actually works a little better. You can see how it's breaking up those edges, but it is also cutting into the stuff in the background. So that's in the foreground. Let's go into parallax strips and just change the amount. It's still on automatic. I want to make it manual again. I just want to break up those edges a little bit. What I don't like is how it's cutting into these dissolved tiles parts. I do like how it's breaking up that edge. I don't particularly like the rotation on this. I might try something different. So I'll get rid of parallax strips. And this is the beauty of Builder. This is why I wanted you to see this. This is how I work in Builder. I'll try an effect. I'll see if I can get it to work. And if I can't, I'll just delete it and try another one. Yeah, thin diagonal lines, those fractured lines are really nice. Okay, so let's have a look at something else. I wonder if we could use, let's see, I wonder if we could use the same dissolve tiles effect. Let's just have a look here and see what we've got. I'm just rolling through the list here, and maybe stylize is one of my favorite. Digital damage won't work. Mosaic. tile scramble. That's the one I was looking for. I just couldn't remember the name. Let's go tile scramble. Yeah, this will probably work, but that's still scrambling up the rest of it. And I need to find out why that's happening. Well, of course, that's happening now because I had deselected, and when I double clicked, it dropped it right at the bottom here. So I'm going to actually disconnect that, and I want to put that in here. Ah, that will work. Okay, so I want to increase the amount of tiles like that. And we don't want any speed for this. I'm just going to undo that. And obviously, we're not seeing her again, so we need to be able to see that shot a little better. In my head, I'm thinking, do I want to comp her back on top? So I'd have to put another composite and then composite her back on top. Or do I want to create some kind of alpha channel and use that as a matte? So let's try the first way. Let's see. So we've cropped that and we've scrambled it. So this is live now, so I haven't planned this at all. So let's duplicate composite, and let's put all of that into the background. You think you can see where we're going here, and put that into the result. Okay, and then take the crop version. See how I'm taking it before scramble, and drop that into the front. See? It's so good. It really does work. So there's crop. So we've cropped that. So we're only scrambling the cropped version, but we're also dropping the cropped version without the scramble right down here in the effect stack onto the front. So see what I mean about breaking up that edge? Just makes that look a little more interesting, doesn't it? I don't think we have to use that as a matte. I think if we use it as a matte, we wouldn't get these kind of inverted areas, which probably wouldn't look quite as good. And by the way, this is how I create all of my presets for Sapphire. All of the ones that you find if you type in my name, John Dickinson, into the effect browser. Can it be masked? Yeah, it can be masked, definitely. We'll look at, if you have a specific question about masking, I'm not sure, I might have already answered that, I'm not sure, but if you have something specific, let me know. Hello from Shanghai. Hello, Shanghai. You see this, how I've used composite. You can continue to just duplicate that and keep, I could composite this on top of, another, and I could duplicate all this, and I could duplicate composite, and then I could have all of this as the background and then something else in the foreground. So there's no limitations. That's actually looking pretty good. What if we wanted to do some sort of overall treatment to this? We'd have to put something at the end of the effect stack. Or what if we wanted to put something in the background? Let's just have a look at checkerboard. So we're still seeing our checkerboard. Let's put something in the background. So, and that's going to be doing exactly what I just said. We've got to find something to put in the background. So why don't we use another effect? Let's just move wipe checker over there. And let's load an effect. So we're going to go node, insert S effect, and we'll grab one of the brand new backgrounds. Why don't we just grab this one? 70s Wave Warp by Ben Brownlee. Good old Ben. May or may not be listening. Can't say anything bad about him. Going to click load. And just give it a moment to load. Ooh, see that there's a fair bit going on in that effect, but that's okay. Going to grab that, and bring that just across to the right. So this is going to be our background, okay? So what do we have to do? Let's take a look at it. If we want that to be in the background and that to be in the foreground, we're going to have to duplicate composite like this. Okay, and we'll drop everything we have in the front, and we'll take that background and drop it in the back, and then we'll composite the result. There we go. So it looks a bit busy, and those swirls probably don't work with this, but see how easy that was to use that preset and just drop that in the background. Maybe I'll just have a look at these settings that Ben's created. Maybe it's wave warp, so maybe we can play with the amplitude. Probably need something a little more understated in the background for this. Why don't I I'll undo that. Just come back to where I was, and what I might do is just grab the blur effect and just drop that below that. Ah, that's better. See how the background before was really conflicting with this geometric look, but by blurring it, you get this nice juxtaposition of, hard edges and softer graphics, and I think that works much better. That way you can have this, this undulating, moving background, but you've also got the stuff in the foreground, and they're not fighting against each other. Otherwise, you start to put too much in this, and it's like an omelette that has everything in it. Eventually it starts to, taste pretty bad. So you've got to be careful how you mix things in. Could work if you bring the opacity down or blur. Yeah, there you go. That's right. Yeah. There isn't. Is there a limit to how many nodes can be used? I don't know if there's an actual limit to the amount of nodes. Ben can probably answer that. But there is a limit to how many parameters you can actually see in the host. If you have a look closely, you can see this little exclamation mark on this yellow triangle. This is telling me that there are too many effects in the stack to be able to have all those parameters visible in the host. Okay, and that works with these checkboxes here. We've got plenty of tutorials out and recent tutorials about those, so you can check out our YouTube channel and just do a search for Sapphire tutorials. But as far as how many actual nodes you can have, I'm probably the most guilty of using the most in my presets. I always get shamed for using so many effects, but hey, that's what it's a builder. You just got to keep building. So, I mean, that's not looking too bad. There are other effects. And this is case in point. You can see how many effects are there. We could just do an overall grade for this. Maybe something like, I really like, let's see, just color fuse looks is great. This was an effect championed by Ben, just for an overall maybe color look. Now, if I want to just give it a more sort of subtle grade, maybe I could load a preset and try different color grades. I'm a big fan of that kind of grade actually, where the blacks are not so crushed. I'm going to find something that might work with this. Maybe that's pretty good. I like how that makes the shadows a little more blue. I'm going to load that. So that's quite nice. Adds a little blue to it, which is really nice. And that sort of is nice next to that orange. So blue and orange always works well together. Ben's the guy behind the Boris. Yeah, that's right. Boris FX comments. That's right. So, yep, I could use that. I could not use that, and I could maybe use Sapphire film looks or film effect. And this gives a more filmic feel to it. Once again, using, having a look at the presets. Seeing if there's anything that works with this. Something like that, maybe. That gives it a bit of soft focus. So, like I said, really, really easy to experiment. And then it also is easy to push it too far. Just going to delete that. So I think that's a pretty good example. How are we going for time? We've already 4:30. Okay. So that gives you a pretty good idea about how you can, enhance a shot by using effects from scratch and also combining it with presets. Let's just click OK. And what I'll do is just going to turn this one off. And we'll look at something else. Let's take a look at, we'll leave that one for now, and just come to this one here. This is just a black solid. I want to look specifically at backgrounds. And I was noodling around with one of Ben's presets. It's a great looking preset. I was thinking, how can I take the preset even further? That's what I want to do now. So I'm just going to grab my little cheat sheet here, just in case I need it. It's on my other monitor. Okay. So once again, I'm going to apply S effect, just to a black solid this time. And I'm going to, this time, rather than clicking Edit Effect, I'm going to click Load Preset. Yeah, thanks for that. Thanks for that clarification, Ben. They're pretty light, Stephen. They don't put too much strain on the system. Some effects can be a little slow to render. I'm very guilty in my presets, especially my S effect presets in Sapphire, for combining lots of Sapphire bokeh lights effects. And the current version of bokeh lights is a little slow, but when you put 5 together, it can slow down a bit. But it depends what you put together. But you can see how fast I'm working on this. And this is a 5-year-old HP workstation. It's only about 2.3 or 2.4 gigahertz, so it's pretty slow. Okay, so I'm going to use this effect here. This is Ben's glassy purple background. So let's load that. Very nice. So a psychedelic swirly background. I know Ben enjoys making presets as much as I do, don't you, Ben? And I'm going to click on Edit Effect. And let's see how we can take this a little further. Now, one of the things that I was playing around with when I was doing my recent batch of presets was adding transitions, as you just saw. We used that scramble effect. But I was also playing with a lot of the distortion and the emboss distort specifically. I'm just talking to this camera here, which is the one I use for my live streams. The emboss distort specifically. So I'm going to try emboss distort, but I want to walk through this effect first because I actually found, and Ben will appreciate this, I found a way to actually optimize this effect. Let's take a look. And this is what you should do when you load presets is turn on Preview Selected Node down here on the left and click on the node and just see what it does. This is a great way to break things down. The first node is the S color effect, so it's just black. So that when you apply this effect, no matter what you apply it to, whether it's a black solid or a piece of video footage, you'll always get the expected result, which is that purple wavy background, rather than being, supered over the top. So that's why Ben put a black color in there. Now, on the left-hand side, we have Sapphire Clouds effect, and we have the Posterize effect, very nice, and we have Quad Tone. Now, on the right-hand side, we have Clouds, Posterize, and Quad Tone as well, but we have that followed by Edge Detect. Now, something I noticed with this one is that if I click on Clouds, and let me just zoom in, And now if I click on Clouds 2, watch what happens up here. Nothing. It's the same effect. It's the same settings. If I click on Posterize and click on Posterize, it's the same effect. If I click on Quad Tone, get the idea? Click on Quad Tone, it's the same effect. So I don't actually even need these effects. So I can actually delete them. Oh, what happened? Well, remember, it's these three effects. So all we have to do is just patch that directly into source A. There we go. So that's those three effects. There's the edge detect into Math Ops source B, and there's the version without edge detect into source A. So when you're working in the builder, remember you want to use the power of nodes. And I'm probably guilty of this as well. When I'm designing, I sometimes duplicate things that I don't need to duplicate. So it was easy for me because Ben built this. It was very easy for me to go in and look at it, objectively and with fresh eyes and see that. If I'd have built it, Ben might just have easily gone in and opened up mine and done exactly the same thing. And the good news about this, working like this, is that that's 3 less effects that I have to use in this effect. And also, it gives me potentially more options for the parameters I can view inside my host. Just going to have a quick drink. All right, so now that we've now that we've optimized that effect, let's take it further. The last effect down here is wave warp, and that's what's giving us that warpy look. So as I mentioned, I've been working a lot with what's it called, emboss distort, because I like the glassiness that it gives you. So let's find that. Emboss distort. So where do we want to put this one? Where did I put it? Now I put it after waves. So let's just select that one and double click. And see how that gives you that instant sexy glass look? Really works beautifully. If you take a look at the 2022.5 presets that I created for Sapphire, you'll see this is a real theme through the looks that I created for that version. I just really like that glassy look. It just gives it, a really expensive look and feel. So that's a good start. Now, what else did I do? Yeah, what I also threw at this was a transition as well. So now the transition I used earlier was wipe flux, and you could use any wipe effect. Let's try wipe flux first. I'm going to type in wipe. You could use dots. A lot of the presets that I've created recently use wedge and double wedge. Well, what we'll do is we'll use flux. So where am I going to put that? Let's see. Okay. We'll drop in wipe flux into here. And by default, wipe percent is set to 1, so it's fully wiped off. So we need to bring that back. So now we're just seeing the result of that at 50%. And what I want to do is have that in the foreground, which is what I want. But I want to put something in the background, obviously, but I don't want it to be the embossed distorted version. I want it to be just the wave warps. So I'll drop that into the background. See that? So now we've got one version. If I just give myself some space here, I want to make sure that you can see it. Now we've got the version up to wave warps, and we've got one version after that which is distorted, and that's going into wipe flux foreground. And we've got this version which is going into wipe flux background. So wipe flux gives us that. Now it would be nice if we could once again sandwich some effects in this one here. So what I'm going to do is I want to make this black and white, this one. I'm going to use hotspots for that. Anyone you ever used hotspots? It's a nice little hidden gem. So I'm going to drop that in here. And I'm going to bring saturation right down to 0. Once again, click on white flux. So now we've got the black and white version and the colored version, which is really nice. But I don't like it so sharp. So after this, I'm going to put blur. S-blur, a truly classic blur effect. Like that. Take a look at that. So it's kind of like what we had before. We blurred that background before. So that's looking interesting. And what I could do here is add a bit of emboss distort. And of course, I've got emboss distort here. So where would the best place be to put emboss distort? If I wanted to use the same settings, then I could disconnect that and drop it below white flux, like that. So now everything's being emboss distorted, which is, interesting. But what if I want a different emboss distort setting? So I'm just going to undo that. And that's going to, once again, be back where it was. What I'll do is I'm going to duplicate that this time. And I'm going to drop that below blur. So now with the two separate ones, I can adjust the settings. So we do get somewhat of a different result by applying emboss distort separately. We get that nice silkiness that's happening on the black and white, but it's not combining it with the transition version. By having emboss distort over the top, we lose those hard lines, which I prefer. So that's pretty nice. Why don't we add a little bit of ultra glow? My favorite glow of all time is ultra glow. Just double click. And there we go. Ultra glow, there we go. That looks pretty nice. Do we want it to be fully white? Maybe not. We can change the color. Nice to add a bit of orange in there like that. What if we put any pink in there? Pink's pretty nice too. It is so much fun experimenting in this software and coming up with looks. If you're not using Sapphire Effect Builder and you're using Sapphire, then you're not really using Sapphire. I actually like the pink. It's pretty nice. Let's keep it like that. So that's pretty nice. Now, I did say I like those sharp edges, but what if we could maybe sort of bleed those into the black and white a little bit more? If you didn't want them to be so sharp, you could select the transition and you could just adjust the edge softness. Not too much though. Just a little bit, and just increase the white %. So that just gets those to, just gives them the slightly softer edges and helps it transition a little better into that background. Probably a little too much. Let's bring that back. .6, maybe something like that. Just slightly softening them, and I just think that makes it a little less harsh. Let's go fit, and we won't preview selected. No, we'll come back down to ultra glow. All right, so we've started with this effect, which is up to, not to there, up to here. So that was a great base that Ben created. You could use it like this if you wanted to, or you could just go in and add your own things and take it even further, depending on what you want. Okay, any questions? And by the way, this is just my first office hours. I'll be doing a lot more with Sapphire and Sapphire Builder. So if you have something specific that you'd like to see, let us know, and I can do some prep. But I'll be spending a fair bit of time inside Builder doing this kind of thing. Ultraglow is just the bomb. If I just disable that, it's like, okay, that's pretty nice. But with Ultraglow, it's so lovely. Well, maybe I could play around with the width as well. So just increase the width Y. Do something like that. Play around with the glow bias. You can see it's so fast as well. That's pretty, isn't it? Look at that. A lot of depth to it, right? That's really nice. I mean, I would save that as a preset right now. I'd be totally happy with that. I think that's a really nice look. Perfect for your corporate videos. Okay, let's save that one. And if I did want to save it as a preset, you can see the difference there. I could just click Save Preset. Type everything in, and I'm good to go. Let's take a look at one more example. So I've got this shot here, and I actually use this shot to create a particular preset, but I wanted to show you how you can enhance presets, just like we did with the background, but this one's actually for some footage. So once again, apply S effect, and this time we'll load a preset. And this is the other one that I had in my favorites. And just to revise, you actually create a favorite by clicking on the little star. So I'm going to choose this one, Golden Edges. You can see the actual thumbnail is this shot, because this is the one I used to design this look. So it says colorize the edges of your shot with a golden highlight. Let's click load. Very nice. Let's enhance this. Edit effect. The Sapphire Effects, there are some psychedelic looks for the Sapphire Effects, but there's thousands of presets in here that goes way beyond those looks. You really have to get into Sapphire, get into the effect browser and explore. Yeah, everyday work type goal, but depends on the kind of work you do, Stephen. I do this kind of work, and I did a lot of this kind of work in broadcast television before I started working for Boris FX. It really depends on the type of work that you do and the goal that you have, the kind of look that you're trying to create. Yep, animate the glow colors. Yep, all of this can be keyframed, of course. I'm just trying to give you some idea about the power inside the builder and how you can experiment. How you experiment and what you create is totally dependent on your shot and what the shot requires. Remember, the idea comes first. Okay, so I want to enhance this a little bit. This is a little, it's a little too stylized. So just grab my little cheat sheet here, and let's see. What I want to do is I want to first of all add the distort effect. Drop that in, and just add this. Just select or connect, the source to the distort effect. Okay, so now we're getting this strong distortion. And I want to combine these two. So let's see. For that, this time I'll use not composite, I'll use layer. and I'll drop layer in. So for the foreground, I've got these three effects. And for the background, I've got that effect. And I'm going to combine them using the screen blend mode. And this is the big difference, one of the big differences between the basic composite effect, which has front and back. This has multiple blend modes and also multiple different ways of combining or mixing the front and the back, or the foreground and the background. Okay, so let's see. I've got that one in there. Let me just adjust the distortion a little bit. I'm going to really crank that up and bring the blur lens down just to add in some detail like that. Makes it a little more glassy. Okay, so that's sitting over the top, and I think that's what I did before. Actually, I think what I did was, rather than have the source plugged into distort, I actually had the colorized version, the edge colorized version. So that's better. So we're getting this sort of glassy effect, and then we're combining it with what we had with the preset to get that. But I actually preferred to mix this in with the source by itself. So I'm going to just bring these up and duplicate layer 1. We're going to comp that into the foreground like that. And then we're going to take the source without anything and put it in the background like that. So that becomes more of an enhancement of the shot rather than a complete replacement. I'm just going to patch that in there. And for layer 2, I'm going to choose an overlay blend mode. There we go. So now we're getting a nice treatment on the shot rather than a complete replacement of the shot, which actually looks really nice. And what I suggest when you're working in Sapphire Builder is do one thing at a time. Don't just willy-nilly connect things. Just do one connection at a time and see how it's getting you towards your goal, and then add another one and try that, another one, rather than adding in a whole bunch of effects and connecting them all at once. It's easy to get lost. So that sits in front and that sits behind. That's a really nice look. If I wanted to play around with the gamma, let's see, I could grab the gamma effect. And where would I put this? Maybe I want to put this on distort and brighten this up a little bit. I'll just turn off previous selected node. Just makes it a little brighter. Maybe I'll take that out and put that, let's see, right down the bottom. That's probably better. Brighten it up a little bit. One thing I can do with the distortion, let's just adjust the blur lens. I can actually use the source as the lens for the distortion. So if I just grab source and just patch it into lens, see how it wraps around the pixels of the source? Let me just change that. I'll turn that off again. It just wraps a little more. It's kind of like a displacement map. So it's using the source as a displacement map for the distort effect. Excellent, Stephen. You're welcome. And but Sapphire's, I'm a motion graphics artist. I do some visual effects, and Sapphire is great for motion graphics, but it's also heavily used for visual effects as well in television, feature films. the Sapphire is used right across the board. I'm only showing you one small thing today, and I'm definitely biased as to the kind of things I'm focusing on. So you can see how easy it is to take these three effects. Let me just turn on previous selected node. That's the original look, which I still really like. And then just add in a few more effects and take it in a slightly different direction by compositing in the original source footage. How are we going for time? Okay, so we've only got a couple more minutes because we only have an hour today. Do we have any more questions? Shoot your questions through if you have any questions. Just going to click OK for that. And I just wanted to talk about one little gotcha, which is when you're keyframing in After Effects. I'm an After Effects user. If you do keyframe parameters in After Effects currently, in the current version, and then you go back into Sapphire Builder, you will lose your keyframes. So that's something to really keep in mind. Don't do any keyframing inside of After Effects until you've got everything set up in Builder. So and that's something we're looking to change, or at least give you a warning message, because I've been using Sapphire for many years and I've still set up keyframes in After Effects, gone back to Builder to make a tweak, and I've lost my keyframes. So I wouldn't say that's been a real big problem for me at all, but it's just something to keep in mind. Just reading the comments here. Yeah, definitely. It's something that needs more people to take a look at it because of how powerful it is, and that's why we're doing a lot more of this. It's just such a great way to experiment with your Sapphire effects. That's one thing. You see how I was just experimenting then. But also keep in mind that S-Effect is the way that you can browse all of the presets. So if I didn't really know what I wanted to use with my Sapphire effects, and I was just going up to the effect menu and just trying different Sapphire effects one after the other, that's not a really good way to work. It's much better to go into S-Effect and use the effects in there. If I was using individual effects and I set up my settings and I thought, I just wouldn't mind a little bit of, another Sapphire effect. Of course, I could add it in After Effects, but you might not be working in After Effects. And you can go into Builder and add it in there, but you've also got the benefit of working in the node-based system inside Builder, not just stacking layers in After Effects. So there's so many advantages to working in Sapphire Builder. And obviously also be able to browse the presets across all of the effects. If I applied something like, let's see, S blur to this, I'm going to turn off. So if I just applied Sapphire blur to this, and I go and load the presets, all I'm going to see is the S blur presets, which is handy if you know what you want. But most of the time I don't really know what I want. If you apply Sapphire Effect and you choose to load a preset, you're going to be able to see all of the presets across all of the effects. So it's the ideal way to work. The thing is remembering to apply S-Effect first when you start working. Yeah, question about RAM and number of nodes. I think Ben's answering that. Yeah, it is. It's the same as adding multiple effects. The more effects you have, the more RAM it's going to take up. But you saw on some of these examples I showed you today, I've had, 24 effects in there, and I had no noticeable change in speed. All right, so that literally is the hour, and that flew by. Very excited to be doing office hours in my time rather than getting up at 4 a.m. in the morning. It's very difficult to present it early in the morning. Looking forward to doing a lot more of these, and I hope to see you joining them again as well. So, thanks for joining me, and especially the Australians who are in the audience. I mean, I love all of you, but it's nice to see Australians be able to enjoy this in Australian time. And I look forward to seeing you in the next office hours.